She smiled through everything, through exhaustion, through heartbreak, through silence, and no one ever asked what that smile was costing her. It was the kind of smile that made others feel safe, the kind that said, "I'm fine," even when she wasn't, the kind that became her mask, her armor, her prison. And behind that smile was a woman who hadn't slept properly in years, who had cried in bathrooms and behind closed doors, who had swallowed her pain so deeply that even she forgot where it lived. She smiled while making breakfast, while folding laundry, while attending school meetings, while listening to everyone else's problems. And in all those moments, no one asked her how she was, because her smile convinced them she was okay. She smiled when her body ached, when her dreams were postponed, when her heart was heavy, and when her soul whispered, "I miss me." And the tragedy is that she became so good at hiding, so good at performing strength, that even her children believed she didn't need help, didn't need rest, didn't need to be held. They saw her as the constant, the caretaker, the one who always had it together. And she let them believe it, because she thought that's what love required. She smiled through birthdays she planned but no one planned for her, through dinners she cooked but never got thanked for, through holidays where she made magic but received none, and when she tried to speak, to say she was tired, to say she was hurting, she was met with confusion. "But you're always smiling. You never said anything. You seemed fine." And so she stopped speaking, stopped hoping, stopped believing that her feelings mattered. She became the woman who was always there, always helpful, always kind, but never seen, never asked, never held. And that smile, once a symbol of warmth, became a symbol of erasure. She smiled when she was dismissed, when her opinions were ignored, when her needs were overlooked. And every time she did, she taught the world that her pain didn't matter. She smiled when she wanted to scream, when she wanted to run, when she wanted to be asked, "Are you okay?" And no one ever did. She smiled through grief, through loneliness, through the slow fading of her identity, and the world applauded her strength, not knowing it was killing her. And in the quiet of her room, when the house was asleep, she would sit with that smile, the one she wore all day, and finally let it fall, revealing the tears, the ache, the emptiness beneath. And in those moments she wondered, do they love me, or just what I do for them? And the answer was never clear. This chapter is a tribute to every mother who has smiled through pain, who has carried the weight of the world while pretending it was light, who has been the emotional backbone of her family while her own heart was breaking. It's a call to look beyond the smile, to ask the questions that matter, to see the woman behind the role. Because the brightest smiles often hide the deepest wounds, and the strongest women are often the ones most in need of care. So today, if you see a mother smiling, ask her how she's really doing, ask her what she's dreaming of, ask her what she's afraid to say, and listen, truly listen. Because behind that smile might be a story no one has heard, a pain no one has noticed, a soul waiting to be seen. And if you are that mother, know this: your smile is beautiful, but your truth is sacred. You don't have to hide to be loved, you don't have to perform to be worthy, and you don't have to smile through everything to be strong. You are allowed to cry, to rest, to speak, to be held, and you are allowed to be seen, not just as a mother, but as a woman, a human, a soul. This chapter is not just about the smile, it's about the silence behind it, and the healing that begins when someone finally says, "I see you." She was always available, always listening, always helping, always showing up, and yet, through all those years, no one asked about her. Not her thoughts, not her feelings, not her dreams, not her fears. She became the emotional sponge of the household, absorbing everyone else's stress, pain, and chaos, while her own needs quietly drowned beneath the surface. She was the one people vented to, leaned on, cried to, but never the one anyone checked in on. And slowly, she stopped expecting it. She stopped hoping someone would ask, "How are you?" and mean it. She stopped waiting for someone to notice the tiredness in her eyes, the silence in her voice, the weight on her shoulders. She became the woman who carried everyone's burdens while pretending she had none of her own. And the years passed. Birthdays, holidays, school events, family emergencies. And in every season, she was the reliable one, the strong one, the one who never broke, never complained, never asked for anything. And because she never asked, they assumed she didn't need. But she did. She needed rest, she needed affection, she needed someone to look at her and say, "You matter." And the tragedy is that she didn't even realize how much she was disappearing until one day. She couldn't remember the last time someone asked her what she wanted for dinner, or what movie she wanted to watch, or what she was feeling. She had become so used to being the giver that she forgot what it felt like to receive. And when she did try to speak, to share a worry, a sadness, a longing, she was met with distraction, with dismissal, with discomfort. They weren't used to her being vulnerable, and they didn't know how to hold space for her. So she retreated again, deeper into silence, deeper into service, deeper into invisibility. And the years kept going. Her children grew, her partner aged, her responsibilities shifted. But the pattern remained. She was the one who remembered everyone's appointments, who packed lunches, who stayed up late to finish chores, who woke up early to make sure no one was late. And in all that time, no one asked her what she was passionate about, what she missed, what she dreamed of doing if she had a day to herself. And when she looked back, she saw a timeline filled with other people's milestones. Graduations, promotions, weddings, but none of her own. She had been present for every moment, but absent from her own story. And that absence began to ache. Not loudly, but persistently, like a quiet knock on the door of her soul. She started to wonder, if I disappeared, would they notice? And the answer terrified her, because she knew they would miss what she did, but not necessarily who she was. And that realization broke something inside her. Not in anger, but in sorrow. She had loved deeply, given generously, served faithfully. But she had not been seen, and being unseen year after year changes a person. It makes them question their worth, their voice, their place in the world. And so this chapter is for every mother who has spent years being asked to do, but never asked to feel, who has been everyone's support system, but no one's priority, who has been present in every crisis, but forgotten in every celebration. It's a call to pause, to reflect, to reclaim. Because you are not just a helper, not just a caretaker, not just a background character. You are a human being with stories, with emotions, with dreams that deserve space and attention. And if no one asks about you, ask yourself. Ask what you love, what you miss, what you need, and then speak it. Live it, demand it. Because the years you weren't asked about yourself don't have to define the rest of your life. They can be the reason you finally choose to be seen. She had dreams once, vivid, wild, beautiful dreams that danced in her heart before the world asked her to be practical, to be responsible, to be available. She wanted to travel, to write, to sing, to study, to build something that was hers. Not borrowed, not shared, not sacrificed. But every time she reached for those dreams, life pulled her back gently, then firmly, then permanently. Maybe next year, she told herself. Maybe when the kids are older, maybe when things settle down. And those maybes became decades. She watched others chase their passions while she chased stability, watched others build careers while she built routines, watched others live loudly while she lived quietly. And she told herself it was noble, it was loving, it was right. And maybe it was, but it came at a cost. A cost she didn't calculate until the silence grew louder than the noise. She gave up scholarships, skipped auditions, declined job offers, postponed courses, all for the sake of being present, being dependable, being the mother everyone needed. And she was proud of that. Proud of the birthdays she made magical, the school projects she stayed up late to finish, the emotional storms she weathered without complaint. But pride doesn't replace fulfillment, and love doesn't erase longing. She missed herself, not just the woman she was, but the woman she was becoming before she paused her life for others. And the tragedy is that no one asked her what she had given up. No one asked what she still wanted. No one asked what she dreamed of when she was alone. They assumed she was content, because she never complained. They assumed she had no ambitions, because she never voiced them. They assumed she was complete, because she was always giving. But she wasn't. She was fragmented, stitched together by duty and silence. And when she finally looked at her life, she saw a timeline filled with other people's achievements. Her children's graduations, her partners' promotions, her family's milestones, but none of her own. She had been the cheerleader, the planner, the supporter, but never the star. And that realization didn't come with bitterness, but with grief. Grief for the years lost, the talents unused, the passions buried. She found old journals filled with ideas, old sketches tucked in drawers, old letters she never sent. And they felt like ghosts of a woman who once believed she could be more. And she asked herself, was it selfish to want more? And the answer came softly. No, it was human, because dreams are not luxuries. They are lifelines, and delaying them indefinitely is a quiet form of self-abandonment. This chapter is for every mother who postponed herself, who told herself later until later became never, who gave so much that she forgot she was allowed to receive. It's a call to dust off the dreams, to open the journals, to pick up the paintbrush, the pen, the passport, and to remember that it's never too late to begin again, because you are not just a mother. You are a woman with a soul that still burns, with ideas that still matter, with a life that still belongs to you. And if no one gives you permission, give it to yourself, because the dreams you delayed are not gone. They are waiting, patiently, lovingly, for you to choose them. She held everything together, the schedules, the emotions, the relationships, the chaos, and yet, she was never the center of it all. She was the glue, the quiet force that made sure birthdays were remembered, meals were cooked, apologies were made, and love was maintained, but she herself was rarely acknowledged, rarely celebrated, rarely prioritized. She was the one who noticed when someone was hurting, who stepped in when tensions rose, who made peace when silence grew heavy, and she did. It all without being asked, without being thanked, without being seen. She was the emotional manager of the household, the invisible architect of harmony, and the silent keeper of everyone's well-being. And because she was so good at it, so consistent, so reliable, everyone assumed she didn't need anything in return. They assumed she was fine, that she was fulfilled by the act of giving, that her strength was endless. But it wasn't. She had moments when she wanted to be the one held, the one asked about, the one surprised with kindness. But those moments were fleeting, buried beneath the weight of responsibility. She watched her family laugh, connect, grow, and she felt proud, but also peripheral, like a supporting character in a story she was writing but not starring in. And when she tried to step forward, to share her thoughts, to express her needs, she was met with confusion. You're always so strong. You never ask for anything. You seem fine. And so she retreated again. Back into the role of the glue, back into the background, back into the silence. She was the one who remembered everyone's favorite meals, who knew the emotional temperature of the room, who sensed when someone needed space. But no one sensed when she did. She was the one who made holidays magical, who kept traditions alive, who held the family together during hard times. But when the celebrations came, she was the one taking photos, not the one in them. And slowly, she began to feel like a ghost in her own home, present, essential, but invisible. She started to wonder, if I stopped holding everything together, would it all fall apart? And the answer terrified her because she knew it would, and she knew no one else had been taught to carry what she carried. And that realization made her feel trapped, not by her family, but by the expectations she had helped create. She had taught them that she was the glue, that she would always be there, that she didn't need to be the center. And now, she didn't know how to unteach it. She didn't know how to say, I need to be seen. I need to be held. I need to be more than the fixer. And so she kept fixing, kept giving, kept holding, and kept fading. This chapter is for every mother who has been the glue but never the centerpiece, who has held families together while her own heart quietly unraveled, who has been the emotional foundation but never the emotional focus. It's a call to step into the center, to claim space, to demand visibility, not with anger, but with truth. Because being the glue is noble, but it should not mean erasure. You are allowed to be the star, the voice, the heart of your own story. And if no one places you at the center, place yourself there. Because the glue deserves to be honored, not just used, and the woman who holds everyone together deserves to be held too. She was strong, not because she wanted to be, but because she had to be. Because the world around her didn't allow softness, didn't make space for breakdowns, didn't pause when she was overwhelmed. She was the one who held it together when things fell apart, who smiled when she wanted to cry, who kept going when her body begged her to stop. And everyone admired her strength. They called her resilient, dependable, unshakable. But no one asked what it was costing her. No one saw the nights she cried in the shower, the mornings she woke up with a heavy chest, the days she moved through like a ghost. She was strong when her children were sick, when her partner was distant, when the bills piled up, when her dreams faded. And in all that time, she never let herself fall apart, because she believed falling apart would make her a burden, and she had spent her whole life trying not to be one. She learned to swallow her pain, to silence her needs, to wear her strength like armor. And that armor became her identity. But inside, she was tired. Not just physically, but emotionally, spiritually, deeply tired. Tired of being the one who never got to rest. Tired of being the one who never got to be vulnerable. Tired of being the one who was always expected to carry the weight. And the loneliness of that strength was suffocating. Because when you're always strong, people stop checking on you, stop comforting you, stop seeing you. They assume you're fine, because you always seem fine. They assume you don't need help, because you never ask for it. They assume you're invincible, because you never show your wounds. And so she became invisible. Not because she wasn't there, but because her strength made her untouchable. And she started to wonder, if I broke down, would anyone know how to hold me? And the answer scared her because she wasn't sure they would. She had spent so long being the caretaker, the fixer, the emotional anchor, that no one had learned how to care for her. And that realization made her feel more alone than ever, because strength without support is isolation, and resilience without rest is ruin. She began to resent the word strong, because it felt like a cage, a label that denied her humanity, her softness, her need to be held. And she longed for someone to say, "You don't have to be strong today, you're allowed to fall apart, you're allowed to be seen." But those words never came, and so she kept smiling, kept showing up, kept pretending, and the loneliness grew, not because she was unloved, but because she was misunderstood. This chapter is for every mother who has been praised for her strength while quietly drowning in it, who has been the rock for everyone else while her own foundation crumbled, who has been the emotional shelter while standing in the storm alone. It's a call to redefine strength, not as silence, but as truth, not as endurance, but as vulnerability, not as perfection, but as presence. Because you are allowed to be tired, to be messy, to be human. And if no one gives you permission, give it to yourself. Take off the armor, let someone in, let yourself be held. Because strength is not the absence of weakness, it's the courage to be real. And the loneliness of being strong ends the moment you allow yourself to be seen. It didn't happen in a dramatic moment. No shouting, no breakdown, no confrontation. Just a quiet evening, a mirror, and a woman who didn't recognize herself. She had just finished cleaning the kitchen, folding the laundry, checking on everyone's needs, and as she passed by the hallway mirror, something made her stop. She looked into her own eyes and saw someone she hadn't spoken to in years. Someone tired, someone faded, someone missing. And in that instant, the weight of decades settled on her shoulders, not the physical weight of chores and responsibilities, but the emotional weight of absence, of silence, of self-neglect. She realized she had been living for everyone but herself, showing up for every need but her own, remembering everyone's birthdays but forgetting her own dreams. She had become so used to being the provider, the planner, the protector, that she forgot she was also a person, with desires, with fears, with a voice that had gone unused for far too long. And as she stared into the mirror, she didn't see the woman who used to laugh loudly, who used to dance freely, who used to dream boldly. She saw a version of herself that had been edited by years of sacrifice, softened by years of silence, and blurred by years of being everything to everyone except herself. And the grief hit her, not for what had happened, but for what hadn't, for the books she never read, the places she never visited, the words she never spoke, the boundaries she never set. She remembered the girl she used to be, curious, creative, full of fire, and wondered where she went when she left, and whether she could ever come back. And the answer wasn't clear, but the ache was. She sat down, not to rest her body, but to feel her soul. And for the first time in years, she let herself cry without hiding, without apologizing, without rushing to wipe the tears away. And in those tears was truth. The truth that she had been missing from her own life. That she had been present in every room but absent in her own heart. She thought about the time she said, "I'm fine," when she wasn't. the time she said, "It's okay," when it wasn't, the time she said, "I don't mind," when she did. And she realized that every time she denied herself, she disappeared a little more. And now, standing in front of the mirror, she saw the cost of that disappearance. Not in wrinkles or gray hairs, but in the quiet sadness behind her eyes. This chapter is for every mother who has had that moment, that pause, that reflection, that ache, and wondered, "Where did I go?" It's a reminder that losing yourself doesn't happen all at once. It happens in small choices, in quiet sacrifices, in moments when you choose peace over truth, service over self, silence over voice. And it's also a reminder that finding yourself again is possible. Not easy, not instant, but possible. It begins with seeing, with naming, with grieving, and then with choosing. Choosing to speak, to rest, to reclaim, to remember. Because you are not just a role, not just a function, not just a name on a family tree. You are a soul, and your presence matters. And if you've been missing, it's time to come home, not to the house you clean, but to the heart you've ignored. Because the moment you realize you're missing is the moment you begin to return. She didn't announce it to the world. She didn't post about it, didn't make a speech, didn't ask for applause. She simply began returning to herself, quietly, gently, intentionally. After years of being everything to everyone, she finally chose to be something for herself. It started with small things: a walk alone without guilt, a book she read without interruption, a song she played just because it made her feel alive. And those small things became sacred. Not because they were grand, but because they were hers. She began to say no, not out of defiance, but out of clarity. She began to say yes, not to others, but to herself. She looked at her calendar and made space for joy, for rest, for silence, for creativity. She stopped waiting for permission, stopped apologizing for her needs, stopped shrinking to fit into roles that no longer served her, and the world didn't crumble. Her family didn't fall apart. Her relationships didn't collapse. In fact, they began to shift, to adjust, to grow. Because when a woman returns to herself, she doesn't abandon others. She teaches them how to love her better. She started painting again, writing again, dreaming again. And in those moments, she felt like she was meeting herself for the first time in years. She looked in the mirror and saw not just a mother, but a woman. Whole, complex, worthy. And the grief she once carried began to soften, replaced by a quiet pride. A gentle joy, a sense of home within her own skin. She no longer needed to be the glue, she became the light. She no longer needed to be strong. She became real. She no longer needed to be perfect. She became present, and in that presence she found peace. This chapter is not about rebellion, it's about reclamation. It's not about walking away, it's about walking inward. It's not about being selfish, it's about being whole, because the return to herself was not a moment. It was a movement, a series of choices, a daily devotion to her own soul. And as she lived those choices, she taught her children something they would never forget. That love is not just about giving, it's about being. That care is not just about sacrifice, it's about self-respect. That motherhood is not just about others, it's also about the mother. And in that truth, she became free, not because the world changed, but because she did. She stopped chasing validation, stopped performing strength, stopped hiding her softness. And in doing so, she became visible. Again, not just to others, but to herself. This final chapter is a celebration of every woman who has found her way back, of every mother who has chosen herself, of every soul who has remembered its worth. It's a reminder that it's never too late to return, never too late to begin, never too late to be whole. And if you are reading this, feeling the ache, feeling the longing, feeling the stir, know this: your return begins now. Not with a plan, but with a breath. Not with a map, but with a decision. Not with a crowd, but with you. Because you are not lost. You are waiting, and the path back to yourself is already opening.